Tonight on Gamehead, we're meeting up with Nolan Bushnell, the guy who's known as the founder of Atari, the creator of Pong, and yes, the man who created Chuck E. Cheese. We're here in Woodland Hills, California to learn about his new venture, U-Inc., which may be the Chuck E. Cheese for adults. We're also going to hear about the history of Atari and also get his thoughts on the current state of the video game business. We'll find out what he has to say now, plus all the latest video game news, reviews, and previews coming up next, right here on Gamehead.
Tonight on Gamehead, it's the world premiere first look at LEGO Star Wars: The Complete Saga. We review MotorStorm, Crackdown, and the 300 PSP movie companion game. We take a look at Midway's lineup for 2007 and Game Trailers downloads a preview of their current hottest items.
Hey everybody, welcome to Gamehead. I'm Geoff Keighley, and this week we're here at U-Inc., a brand new restaurant concept from Nolan Bushnell, who has a pretty impressive history in the video game business, having founded Atari and created Pong. You've also got some pretty interesting cocktails here,
Great
right?
cocktails.
We gotta get you liquored up here to hear the real story of Atari, right? So pick your poison here. Now let's, talk about your background, because I think everyone, Pong is the, signature video game. How did you get that first germ of an idea to create a video game?
I really think that the true genius was a guy named Steve Russell who did a game called Space Wars on a big computer.
Was it a PDP-1?
Yeah, it was a PDP-1. It was a big computer. It was difficult. I played that in college, but I filed it away. And pretty soon, I figured out a way to do it without a computer at all, just doing what we call a state machine. And that was sort of my breakthrough.
What's sort of the history of the story of Pong? 'Cause I know there was, you had it, and then there was, Ralph Baer talking about how he had done Pong, and then you had, played it at sort of a convention fair.
And I looked at it and I said, this is interesting, but it's not a fun game. And we changed the algorithm, put score in it and sound, and turned it into a fun game. Ralph was good at filing patents, but not really that much in terms of invention.
Right.
I mean, nobody used his stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a situation where the stuff that he did was not interesting,
right,
and was not at all germane to starting the business. So it was a business decision, get out of my face.
Right.
It was just a nuisance.
2 years after our first glimpse, Sony has unleashed MotorStorm for the PS3. Let's get one thing out there from the start. Visually, this is the most stunning racing game I've ever seen. But how's the gameplay? The off-road canyon racing lets you drive and turbo boost in 7 vehicle types. They're motorcycles, ATVs, rally cars, and big rigs. Each of the 8 courses has multiple paths, and the real fun comes from the combat, like when a big rig runs your little two-wheeler off the course. This creates a cool meta game where you have to find the best path and tackle the competition to win. Online multiplayer also revs up the experience, but some drivers will feel that only 8 courses and just one game mode is too shallow for a $60 game. MotorStorm crosses the finish line with a Gamehead score of 8.5 out of 10.
That's what really, changed Atari, I think. You selling it to, where was it, $28 million? Something
Yeah,
like
biggest mistake in my life.
Right.
But
it was, at the time, I'm sure it sounded like a good decision.
Seemed like
right?
a good idea. Atari was really, really time-consuming, and games were not considered to be a business.
Right.
It was really hard to raise money,
yeah.
And I don't think I was very good at it. I just should have taken a vacation.
Skywalkers. You've met the whole family, but they've never shared the same screen. Until now.
Oops.
LEGO Star Wars: The Complete Saga. The award-winning game franchise that brought the whole family together is back for an adventure that lets you play through all 6 episodes for the first time. Mix and match your favorite characters from across the galaxy and build your adventure from episode 1 all the way through to episode 6. The saga that spans generations makes the jump to the next generation. Now your whole family can battle together on next-gen consoles and take the complete saga with you on the Nintendo DS, featuring new levels, new challenges, and new Jedi moves you'll fall head over heels for. Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga. This fall. Fun runs in the family.
Next on Gamehead, Nolan reveals his favorite games on the 2600. Game Trailers downloads its hottest new media, and later we answer the question once and for all. Is Chuck E. Cheese a rat or a mouse?
Hey, welcome back to Gamehead. We're taking a trip back in history with Atari founder and Pong creator Nolan Bushnell. If you didn't sell to Warner, what do you think would have happened to Atari? Would you still be, you know, ahead of Atari now?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah, and I actually think we would have accelerated the internet by as much as 10 years.
Really? Wow.
We had a 2400 baud modem in 1975.
Wow.
I think we
Phone lines
started
in
the
your
whole
console.
idea of online collaboration, and then all of that was meant to converge in about 1981
In a home console.
in a home computer
Home
console.
computer, right. Okay. Wow.
And we were going to do an online set of games that after we sold the company to Warner, they didn't understand it.
You would have been a little earlier than Xbox Live, I guess.
Right.
Gamers, tonight we dine in mediocrity. 300 March to Glory is a PSP-only adaptation of Zack Snyder's killer film. It tells the story of 300 Spartans battling against Xerxes' Persian army. Here you fight with a sword, shield, and spear and avoid storms of arrows and control a phalanx. But for all the film's style, the game is bland and repetitive. It doesn't help that for a battle against thousands, you don't see more than 10 guys on screen. Frankly, it's a crying shame that there isn't a next-gen 300 game. As it stands, this version gets a Gamehead score of 6.5 out of 10.
And we haven't talked about, you know, obviously a big crash in the video game business in the early 80s.
I think that the business crashed really because Warner thought that they had a record player, and all they had to do was keep putting out software. Yeah. And so they really didn't upgrade the hardware in any kind of a timely or meaningful fashion. And then there was a lot of different competing hardware and a lot of confusion in the market. And then the business really didn't come back until Nintendo came back in.
The business was sort of built on the back of Atari.
And I'm immensely proud of it, no
Right.
question about it.
When you look back, I mean, what are the games that really stand out for you, you know, for the Atari home systems?
I think Pong,
Right.
Breakout. I think Asteroids was a terrific game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Centipedes. Oh, Tempest.
Yep.
Another one of
Good.
my really favorite games.
It's been another hot week in the world of video games, and here are the pieces of media that have been lighting up the Game Trailers servers. Sony made a big splash at the Game Developers Conference, and it's showing in the download numbers. The footage for its Xbox Live killer, PlayStation Home, has been on a rampage on the site with over 1 million downloads, and users can't seem to get enough of its online network 3D virtual world.
We're confident that we can match users' expectations.
Sony also debuted a user-created game called Little Big Planet, and it's making some serious waves. You can create your own levels complete with artwork, obstacles, and physics.
You can start to do a lot of things to empower the audience, which have never been possible before.
Wii Sports and Zelda are great, but everyone's been waiting for new footage of Super Mario Galaxy. Nintendo has obliged, releasing almost 2 full minutes of brand new gameplay. The portly plumber's latest is looking out of this world. Had enough of playing golf on Wii Sports? EA's finally delivered the Wii's first realistic golf game with Tiger Woods' PGA Tour 07. With the Wii's controller, you can really grip it and rip it. And that's exactly what's been happening to our bandwidth this week on GameTrailers.com.
Coming up next on Gamehead, Nolan plays matchmaker for the digital age. We take a look at what hot titles Midway has to offer in 2007. And still to come, we review Microsoft's crackdown for the 360. And yes, it's more than just the Halo 3 beta disc. Here's your YouView poll of the week. Now that Nolan's given us his favorite Atari games, we want to know what you think is the best 2600 game of all time. Asteroids, River Raid, Missile Command, or Adventure? Be sure to place your vote at gamehead.spiketv.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Gamehead. All right, Nolan, we've made it to the bar here at U-Wing.
Cool. We should have
good place
started
to be.
there.
This is where we're going to end, at least. So this is pretty cool because this is, obviously an amazing restaurant, but you've got to give some props to Chuck E. Cheese, right?
Hey, you gotta break some rules.
What drew you to the idea of just, going from video games to the restaurant business?
I perceive myself to be in the fun business.
Right, okay.
And games are just a component of it. And so like a engineer, I use all the tools. And one of the tools is food.
Chuck E. Cheese is obviously geared towards, young kids and that audience, right?
Correct. We realized that young kids loved video games but had no place to play them at the time. So it was really a marketing ploy to get our games in front of more people.
Is Chucky, is he a mouse or a rat?
Rat.
He's a rat, because there was always a debate, right? But
Yeah, he is definitely a rat.
Have you ever wondered how video game journalists like me get to play all the games before they come out? Well, publishers host events called Gamers Days. Recently, we traveled to Las Vegas to see what Midway has in store for later this year.
Armageddon is all about the kind of final battle in this whole, 15-year Mortal Kombat legacy. Every single character that we've ever had in a fighting game all together in one pile together, so it's kind of like the ultimate experience for the player. And for the Nintendo Wii, we have a new control scheme that's never been seen before. There was always a certain amount of skill that had to be performed, but now it's way more accessible, and a lot more people can play Mortal Kombat. Your grandmother can throw a scorpion spear.
At some level, Black Site is a really pretty, fast-paced shooter with a great audio soundscape. It's set in small-town America, so it's really cool, non-standard environments. It has vehicles, high degree of destructibility in the environment. In addition to the standard suite of guns and stuff, you've got this squad that you're sending to do your bidding constantly, and their morale is going up and down, and it changes each playthrough a little bit based on how you're doing.
So we've renamed Unreal Tournament 2007 Unreal Tournament 3, and part of the reason for that is to emphasize the fact that this isn't just a series extension, this is the next generation. It is, in fact, the third generation Unreal Tournament 3 on the third generation Unreal Engine. The big thing is really the single-player storyline. We now have two distinct sets of vehicles instead of both teams really sharing the same ones, and they have some distinct capabilities as well. Obviously, next-generation graphics and gameplay. So I think there really is a lot here that's going to really excite people.
You did Chuck E. Cheese, went away from that, and then all of a sudden, here we are, 2006, 2007, U-Wing.
I felt that games could provide a glue or a social lubrication that would allow people to mix a little bit.
Right.
Like if I say, can I buy you a drink? I'm hitting on you. But if I say, hey, let's play a game together, it's timed, so the risk is low. And maybe we can find some friends that we didn't know we had before.
Now, the games in here, as you said, you're not playing Halo or Doom or anything like that. I mean, you're playing, you got fun sort of trivia games.
We've got this old chestnut that everybody loves. The Love-O-Meter. The Love-O-Meter is right out of the arcades of the 20s.
All right, Nolan, let's see how you are in the Love-O-Meter. Smooth operator, that's not bad.
It's not so bad.
On here, you can order, whatever food you want, right? So it's kind of an interactive menu.
Exactly.
Want to order a burger, you can select that. Sort of like the Jetsons almost, right? It doesn't pop up from below yet, though, right?
Oh, we'll get there.
We'll get there, all right. And you can even order drinks here, which I think is pretty cool. So you've got, whatever martinis you want, margarita. Right. So this will literally get sent to the bartender.
Correct.
And then they'll just, they know sort of what terminal is and your drinks up here?
Oh, yeah. We've got some great cocktails. There is.
What's your favorite cocktail here?
Raspberry mojito.
Don't worry, you're not looking at Nintendo's next Virtual Boy. It's actually the Headplay Personal Cinema System, a new visor-based peripheral that creates a virtual 52-inch screen before your very eyes. The battery-based media center supports 3D, can be hooked into any audiovisual device, and can play media directly off a flash card or USB drive. PS3 owners rejoice. Insomniac and Sony are releasing an update for Resistance. The patch includes 2 new multiplayer game modes and a spectator mode that's probably as boring as it sounds. Gamers will have to wait until May for new maps, which, unlike Gears, will be available for a small fee. Microtransactions. And finally, Xbox will release a new 512 megabyte memory unit this April that will come preloaded with the live arcade mega hit Geometry Wars. Still no word, though, on that 60 gig hard drive. Next on Gamehead, Nolan gets a little candid about present-day Atari.
I'm appalled.
Game Trailers on Location braves the cold for a look at SSX Blur. And finally, it's time to clean up the streets Crackdown style.
Everybody, welcome back to Gamehead. We're here at U-Inc. with Nolan Bushnell. You look at the games business today. PlayStation 3, I remember there's some quotes that you'd given, I think, to Red Herring last year. We were talking about how, what a disaster PlayStation 3 was, and it was, destined to fail. You still feel that way now that it's out and you've had a chance to see it?
It's just not going to be the be-all and end-all.
Right.
It's technologically interesting, but it's nuancy. Do I really care if I can see beads of sweat on my Madden football player?
Right.
Not really. Doesn't really help.
Fine, the gameplay is what matters most.
Exactly. The Xbox is actually trying to do more about it with the Xbox Live.
Right.
That's trying to be very inclusive, and their network offering, I think, is very compelling.
Right. But the Wii's going to be in there too, right? And that's the thing is that could be a much broader.
But Wii has got a slightly different demographic target, and I think the Wii will do more to actually expand the video game business. And I think that a lot of households are going to have both.
Hi, I'm Amanda McKay for GameTrailers.com, and I am inside the Ice Hotel in Quebec City, Canada, for an up-close look at EA's SSX Blur.
We want to make sure we use everything that Wii has to offer, both visually and with the controls. Everybody loves Max, so Max back. Kiori's back as well. Elise is back. The new characters, we have Felix and we have Maya. And I don't want to spoil anybody, but they're new, they're cool, and I'm pretty sure everybody's going to love them. We use all the best-known tracks of all previous games, so it was a mix-up. There's a bunch of new things, a bunch of old things remixed, and so we took the crowd favorites, fine-tune them, and put it all together to something really amazing. And there's 12 different courses, but a lot of different events on each of them. There's some racing event, there's some slope style, which is basically a trick contest. There's half pipe, which is a crowd favorite. So it's a lot more than just beating your opponent. Most of the time, actually, is getting more tricks points. Man, if you see everything I try, because I work specifically on controls, so I spend a lot of time on it. Want to make sure it's the balance between acuity of controls, because you want it to be accurate. Try it, because it's the best control, and it's going to be the best Wii for that. Because on the Xbox, you were right. Yeah, different button set. On the PS2, not the same thing. But now you can pull everything, and it feels right. It feels more like you're actually pulling them and just button mashing your way through. So for sure, that's the best SSX for controls.
For more on SSX Blur, head on over to GameTrailers.com.
You ever think about coming back and doing your own console again or anything like that? Or that's,
I mean, right now, it almost takes a country to launch a video game console.
It's true.
When you say, oh yeah, I'm going to climb in the ring with Sony and Nintendo and Microsoft as a newbie,
right?
I don't think so.
But what do you think of Atari when you look at that now? Because it's still out there. It's a much different company than obviously what you were. They're sort of like they're not doing a lot of great games right now, but they're sort of French company kind of bought the name. And I mean, you ever look back at that and say, are you proud of sort of what Atari has become as the name, or do you?
I'm appalled by that. It's horrible. I mean, the proud legacy of Atari was the most technically innovative company in the 70s and early 80s. And to squander that franchise into an also has been horrible little second-party software company is embarrassing.
When futuristic Pacific City is overrun with crime, who you gonna call? Well, not a scriptwriter in Crackdown for the 360. This ambitious open-world game, which looks a lot like a Scanner Darkly, has you playing a futuristic cop. And that's about all we know about your badass RoboCop self. Storytelling is not this game's strong suit. It's really just one big playground where you run, jump, and drive to assassinate a series of gang kingpins. But the game's streamlined action sort of works, especially after you upgrade your character by collecting agility orbs and building strength by taking down gangsters. Before long, you're leaping from rooftop to rooftop Matrix style and throwing around cars. It's just too bad you have to invest a couple of hours before the game gets really cool. Ultimately, it's a crime that Crackdown doesn't do more with its story or mission design to capitalize on the open world environment. It gets a GameHead score of 8 out of 10.
All right, Nolan, well, I can't wait to have our lunch. I'm sure it's going to be tasty. And thanks for joining us. And I'm sure can't wait to see what happens to U Inc. And we'll see it around the country, around the world before we know it, right?
Perfect.
Cool. All right, well, that's it for this week's Game Head. But make sure to tune in next week for all the latest video game news, reviews, and previews. I know the game. Do you?
This episode of GameHead will be available tomorrow on SpikeTV.com for your